I am the greatest.
Be water, my friend.
And welcome to the One Hit Podcast. Today I'm with Dr. Usman, who's a sports doctor and a GP. Welcome, Doctor.
Hiya, mate. How you doing? Thank you for having me on, pal.
No, it's great to have you on because I've been following you now on Instagram and I've seen different stuff you're doing. You're very busy, both in work and your podcast yourself. So I don't know how you have the time.
I know it's obviously everything going on at the moment. Just trying to keep myself occupied and busy, and then obviously with work and stuff, that's naturally keeping me busy. But thank you for having me on, man.
No problem. No, let listeners know that's what your background is. So I mentioned you're a GP during the day. So
yeah. So I work as a GP in the day. I also work as a sports doctor as well. So I work as a club doctor for Widnes Vikings, so a rugby side. I also work in the amateur boxing setup, and I have done since 2015. So obviously working ringside at the amateur boxing contest and, a few ABA bouts and stuff, medical the boxers there. As of like a year and a half ago, I've started working with professional boxers as their sort of personal doctors, some matchroom signed fighters and some other fighters and stuff. I worked a season in football for the Everton ladies, as the Everton ladies doctor, and I've worked, as a doctor at other sort of big sort of cricket games for the World Cup and sort of concerts and stuff like the Ariana Grande One Love thing. But as well as that, I also, as you mentioned, run my own podcast as well. So the Doctor Us podcast, we bring out 1 to 2 episodes a week, getting various guests on there. We've had Joseph Parker, the New Zealand world champion, other sort of domestic boxers, David Price, other sort of notable names. So so that's keeping me busy, and obviously I'm just glad to be on this show, man, to talk to you today about everything.
that's great. And you mentioned boxing. I see you had like an amateur career yourself in boxing.
Yeah, so like yourself, I'm a heavyweight. Well, obviously in the amateurs it's called super heavyweight, but in the professionals it's called heavyweight, as you know. So I only had 2 amateur bouts, or competed between 2010 and 2014. Had two amateur bouts, which I won, and then I was supposed to fight in the English Championships for uni, and I actually got ready, and then no one entered into my weight class, because in the boxing weight class it's over 91 kg.
Yes.
And I used to fight. I'm 6'4.5", 6'5". I used to fight at like 108 kilos. Obviously much more heavier now. I used to fight 108 kilos. So I remember this. No one entered into my weight category in the English Championships. So I'm not going to be losing 17 kilo. I couldn't take 17 kilo off me that time. Yeah, so that time I was like 16% body fat, 16%. So I couldn't have taken. Yeah, so the next thing was obviously 91 kilos, but no one entered. So that was my sort of amateur boxing career, and I think I used that, just being involved in the sport and enjoying boxing myself. I used that to say that I wanted to work in it as a doctor. So I had a sort of fought as an amateur. Enjoyed that, and obviously that was something I wanted to talk to you today about.
Yeah, and also with the boxing, was always boxing a passion even growing up, or was it university?
Yeah. No, it was always a passion. It was a strange one, dude. Like I remember the first ever fight I watched was the second Mike Tyson Frank Bruno fight in '96. We knocked him out. So I was like 8 at the time, and I remember it was on late, and I remember stayed up to listen to it on the radio. And then growing up, I was always a huge Lennox Lewis fan. Lennox Lewis was always like my idol, being like a big, tall guy like him, was he using the jab? Obviously the way he conducted himself out of the ring. 'Cause my parents, my dad never liked Mike Tyson and the way he conducted himself, but Lennox Lewis was always someone that was, we were seeing on TV, domestic abuse adverts and stuff. He always brought himself quite well and composed, and sort of. So I grew up watching him, and then I was always like an overweight sort of teenager, big teenager. So I tried rugby initially, didn't really, was okay at that. I sort of played cricket, and then I only really got into boxing in 2010, like halfway through uni. So I was like 22, 23. I got into it really late. Competed for 4 years, and then when I started working, it just became working as a doctor. It became quite difficult to keep up the competitive aspect. I still did it for fitness. As you know yourself, there's a difference between keeping fit and being fit for fighting. that makes sense, because you can't, like boxing, similar with yourself, with any martial arts, taekwondo, karate, anything, you can't play them, because you can get very hurt if that's the case. It's not like football where you play once a week. Oh, I was unfit on the football game. I was gassing everywhere. If you're gassed in the ring or in the cage or in the square circle, you're gonna get your head kicked or punched off. So
especially heavyweight boxing, if you don't be careful, you'll be knocked out.
Oh, mate, in heavyweight, like I remember I was talking to you off camera. Obviously, when I was competing, finding sparring, dude, like it was just impossible. It was so hard finding sparring. Maybe it's a little bit different now because more people are boxing, like at my size. But I remember back then, before my first fight, I literally had no super heavyweight sparring. And the second one, I remember having to travel. Obviously, I'm based in Liverpool. I remember I had to travel to Miguel's gym in Brixton, which is like a 4-hour train journey, just for some sparring. Yeah, like it was mad. I don't know if you had the same problem being a heavyweight, like finding sparring.
Yeah, growing up, like a lot of our tournaments had to be over in England, and heavyweight section was big for tournament, but for sparring in clubs, there was no heavyweights. So it's very difficult to smaller boys, which is they're faster, but you can't use your strength and speed then because you're a heavyweight. You want to use your advantage, but you can't use your advantage whenever they're running away from you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So all the sparring is just literally you chasing them landing 10 punches, and it's just like it just turns unrealistic because when they're on the ropes and they're tired, you can't. You're a bit of when you land something big or you unload on them, you'll just hear like, "Come on, ease off now."
Yeah.
So how the hell is this? How the hell is this fair? Like,
yeah, it's like imagine it's like a football team and an 18-year-old playing with 10-year-olds. Like the 18-year-old, 10-year-old referee's gonna blow up a free kick every time. So it's this sort of. I know it's totally different, but it's sort of similar.
It is. I mean, I wouldn't mind it if, like, the good sparring that I'd get was like when you get a cruiserweight or a big light heavyweight because they punch hard enough, but they punch fast as well. When you were literally, for example, you'll know yourself, but when there were sessions where it was you, like a big super heavyweight, and then everyone else was like 55, 60 kg. It's like, what the hell? Like, you just like, and then, like sometimes like in our sessions, it would be like, all of us would get in the ring and then we're in the corner and then, like you come in and spar. So you just be like, yeah, but I mean, the other alternative was like someone sparring something like heavyweights who are like 81, 90 kg. That's probably better than nothing. But when you have to spar the proper small boys, like it was just like, this is doing them all the favors, but it's not you doing you anything, sort of thing. If that makes sense.
You get punched in when it comes to their actual fight. They're used to getting hit by a heavyweight where you're not getting a heavyweight. The heavyweight hits you. It's like a lights out, wake up. What's going on here?
Yeah, of course. And it's not even the headshots. It's like the condition to the body as well. Like, being in there with another big man, like body to body. But yeah, like you said, it's obviously back to what's happening now. You can obviously, as an amateur, you don't get paid. Like, I don't know what it's like in taekwondo and stuff like that, but in the boxing, you don't get paid as an amateur. With everything happening now, with there being no regular training sessions, I can just see people just giving up.
Yeah,
giving up the amateur sport and just doing something else. Maybe sort of go. Yeah, it's a difficult one, dude.
See, it's two ways. It's the whole mindset now. Like the way when lockdown happened in March, like I told all my students, this is your chance to bring in that extra 1%, train extra harder. You've more time now. It's been off school, being off work, and then there's other ones who just quit. So you have an advantage to become a world champion faster than you had a year ago because everyone's training. But now if no one's training and you're training harder, when the scene comes back on again, it's going to be a different ballgame. Yeah.
So what is it? Is it taekwondo that you guys?
ITF taekwondo. So it's we do it mostly. It's like full contact kickboxing type kicks and punches. So that's the sort of No, it's fun. It's fun. And then sort of boxing. Then the reason why you just sort of stopped boxing was the work just took over, and then other life and comes at you.
Yeah, dude, it's hard. Like, obviously when you start training as a doctor, you've got to do a lot of working nights. Like working weekend shifts, working night shifts. working night shifts in the week. So, for example, some of the shifts, sometimes you'd have to work 4 nights in the week, sort of 9 p.m. till 9 a.m., or on the weekends, 9 a.m. till 9 p.m., or weekend nights. So, just, I mean, I could have kept it up, but it's just very difficult, the stresses of the job and stuff like that, having to, say if you come off nights, going to train that weekend. So, that evening. So I mean, I still sort of still kept it up for sort of fitness and stuff, but in terms of competing, as you know, like you need to fully dedicate your life and everything to it at that time. You need to be able to really watch what you're eating. Be training regularly, like 5-6 times a week, going on running every day, and doing all that. So just with work commitments, I guess, and I guess you sort of and then with that, you naturally just lose the passion to compete. It's sort of because you're sort of you've got to be, your mind has to be fully in it, I guess. And if your mind isn't, because it's distracted with other things, rightfully so, family commitments or work commitments, you sort of think, well, I don't really want to go and get my head punched in because you do see, especially at the professional level as well. Like, don't you see it with some of the journeymen of you just think, why are you still competing? Why are you still fighting?
What's the purpose there? Yeah, it's that hay. It's like it's someone running marathons, it's running and feeling that buzz. So I think it's they want to feel that buzz all the time. So that's why they keep going, even though they know in their head that they're not going to win. It's just the whole atmosphere in front of fans, punching. Some people like getting hit, and some people like hitting people. So this is their way of relaxing their brain.
I don't get it. Yeah, like even some of the professional boxers today, like you just think at that level now they're just losing consistently, and you just, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, sure, you have a family, like, because there are obviously dangers to being punched in the head repetitively, and the dangers of boxing and stuff. So you just think, what are you doing this for? Like,
especially in boxing, with the gloves being so padded, and there's repetition over and over and over again. Like, it's not good for the brain, as you know. And the best thing about yourself, then, because you're a doctor, then you kept in the sport in your professional wise, so that was quite good as well, and to keep involved in some capacity of the sport.
No, that's what sort of kept me sort of involved, really, like working in the amateur boxing. I was still able to sort of keep my foot in the door, sort of, because I always said that when I did qualify, I wanted to work, in the sport of boxing. And I think being a former boxer myself at a competitive level, you sort of understand what the boxers are going through. You understand how some of the injuries. So when it comes to medicaling fighters, on the day, you'll know what to look out for. It's just basically you were in their position a few years ago, so you're able to empathize with them. So a lot of the younger fighters, have to make weight and stuff. So especially with the amateur boxing, they have to weigh in on the same day. It's not like the professional thing where they weigh in the day before. So you're able to spot signs of, are they really, really weight drained, or is it the difference between them being weight drained and them being unhealthy enough to fight? Also cuts as well, particularly cuts, looking for cuts. So as as your former fight, you'll know that if a cut, where a cut is and where the blood will impede the vision and stuff like that. So I mean, that sort of really, I think it sort of pushed me into working in the sport, really. But it's just been a bit difficult with COVID and stuff. Like, since March, there's been no amateur boxing. There's been no rugby league as well. Our league, because the Widnes Vikings are in the league below the Super Leagues and the Championship, they've cancelled that. So there's really no sport at the moment. So it's just a bit boring, to be honest,
And you mentioned weight cuts. Like, weight cuts is a huge talking point, especially in MMA at the moment. Like, some people are losing 25 kilos a week before a fight to weigh in.
Yeah. So,
like, what's your views on the weight cuts? Do you think people are cutting too much, or do you think people are able to cut? They should cut.
It's good you brought that up, actually. That is a big issue, like, especially in the professional boxing thing. There's more weight classes. But in MMA, I know for that there's not. So it's a huge, like, I was watching the MMA fight it was the other month, because my cousin's more into MMA than I am, but he's slowly bringing me into it. So, what was it? Kamaru Usman and what was the other guy called?
Masvidal.
Didn't he have to cut like something crazy, like 11 kg in a week or something like that?
It's crazy. Some fighters walking around 185 kilos, or 185 pounds, sorry, and cutting down to 155 or 170 in that week. So it's like 15 pounds, 20 pounds in a week. Where your man, you mentioned Jorge Masvidal, he was 11 kilos over in America, had to fly to Abu Dhabi while cutting weight like in 5 days.
Jesus. So 11 kg in 5 days.
Yeah. And like most of that weight's taken off day before, 24 hours beforehand. Like I do a lot of research on the weight cuts, and like it's crazy.
Yeah.
There's an organization called One Championship, and they don't have weight cuts. They weigh you every month, every 2 months. So for example, if I'm weighing between 170 and 180, that's my fight class. But if I can't go down to 150 because I'm too heavy for 150. So it's about the safety of the fighter, because they're saying long term, there's going to have an effect on their brain and their body.
It's mad. Like, it's honestly, it's crazy. It's you know, you've seen obviously fighters like Darren Till and stuff doing the weight cut, but yeah, it's scary. It's so scary because they essentially have to take that weight off, and it's by the time they've taken that weight off, I can guarantee you they'll be in stage 1 or probably stage 2 kidney failure. You know, they'll be so dehydrated, and because of that dehydration, the kidneys won't be working the way they normally do. So they won't be able to pass normal amounts of water, you know, urine. Everything else in their body will be affected as well. You know, their sort of regulatory system, and it's so dangerous. And then obviously they have that time to rehydrate. You know, they make that weight for the actual weighing purposes, and then they have time to rehydrate. But that's often not enough, because the layer of water surrounding the brain is depleted. So you taking punishment, your sort of mode of recovery as well during the fight, everything is affected because you've depleted your body of not only water, but vitamins as well, you know, like sodium, potassium. And potassium is a big one as well, because it helps with muscle contractility. So if your body's depleted, you know, your muscles aren't going to contract the way they would do. Other stuff as well, magnesium, calcium, and whatnot. So, I mean, the only solution is for them to really legalize the IV drips, because that's the only proper medical way you can rehydrate someone when they're that dehydrated. Because when you get patients in hospital with that level of kidney failure, you don't give them oral fluids or anything oral. You give them fluids through a drip intravenously. But with that being banned, I believe, by USADA, it just makes things a bit difficult. So some fighters will do it anyway, you know, illegally. And some fighters will just rehydrate orally. But it's so dangerous. Like, I've watched a few documentaries. Like, I watched the BBC documentary a few years ago on that Liverpool fighter, Dean Garnett.
Yes.
And he had to do, 7 kg in a day? I think it was more. But it's crazy. I was like, what? So they sit in. Have you seen some of the weight cuts personally when they've done them?
Yeah, well, our fighters there, especially in Taekwondo, have to lose weight the day before as well. And it's not as severe as that. We try and keep it. If they're not by weight the month beforehand, they're going up a weight division, we can do that. But for like championship level, I've come across at the MMA scene that people have to beat that weight, and like it's severe. Like it's laying in a hotel room in a hot bath, laying on the ground with towels around them. Like, it's no food, no nothing. There's a great documentary on YouTube, Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes, they put up videos of them weight cutting, and it's crazy. It makes you think, like, why? But especially in weight cuts too, sometimes UFC, you see people miss a weight by two pounds, and they go back and they lose the weight then by running, and they're really, you can see their body, they're not fit. And the next day of the fight, and they lose. So not all the time they lose, but most of the time they do lose because their body doesn't want them to be that weight. And you mentioned Darren Till. Darren Till actually was a welterweight. Now he's a middleweight because he realised his body's not fit to go down that anymore. He has to do his own performance. It's like a high-level car, like a Ferrari. You want a Ferrari to go fast. You don't want it to go slow. So you make sure you keep maintaining it.
Exactly. And yeah, that's Darren Till. He must walk around at 15.5 stone. He doesn't
15 or something. 215 pound he walks around. Yeah. And goes down the
that's like a head. That's, and then what and the middleweight is what you cut, so 215 will be like 97 kg.
We used to cut the 170 pounds, and now he fights at 185. So he's cutting from 215 to 185 now.
20 pounds, yeah. That's crazy how you say. I think it's just simply due to the fact that they want to be the bigger, stronger man in there, and that's your only way of doing it. But sometimes that can backfire if your fitness levels aren't up, and then you've got that on top of you. It's just pointless because you'll just get really hurt in there. But no, just going back to what it was. It's just crazy. It's just so dangerous. Like some of the weight cuts, and do you find that because some of them would get in the hot baths, but a lot of them would work out in saunas. And I know I've spoke to fighters, and a lot of fighters prefer the hot baths to saunas.
Yeah, fighters, you see more and more fighters now in the hot bath, so to keep the room warm.
Why is that? Why do they prefer that to the saunas?
I think it's because the water involved. Where if you're in a sauna, there's no water and it's just pure dead heat, like an oven. Yeah. Where in a hot bath, there's a bit of water there to sort of keep you more relaxed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Either way, I wouldn't like any of them. Both of them don't sound too good.
No, being in a hot, it's not even in a lukewarm bath. It's been in a hot boiling bath as well. So your skin is burning, like, and then not even that. In the couple of days before, like working out, it's not that actual night before. It's also the days before where they won't be eating any carbs. Yeah. No carbs, and then on top of that, having to train the way they normally train with like a sweatsuit or a bin bag on, and then you can't come home and guzzle loads of water to get the water back in you. They'd have to limit it though. But then I've also spoke to a lot of professional athletes and stuff. Professional boxers, they'll start this thing called water loading from Monday. Am I right?
That's correct.
So they'll start
drink double the water. I think they double the water they normally drink, and then they do that for two or 3 days, and then cut the water out less, and then the day before no water, and then that just draining the system out. But I'm a great believer that you should get down the weight naturally, and should be 1 pound or 2 pounds off the day before. Don't be forcing it because of performance. But then it's easier said than done. These boys are professionals. They think that by going down that extra 2 kilos, 4 kilos, 5 kilos, they're going to be at an advantage. And every advantage you have in sport is severe. Like, it's massive.
Definitely. Even in the boxing element, you see it with Canelo, who's the biggest star in boxing at the moment. He's always, except for maybe light heavyweight when he moved up to light heavyweight to fight Kovalev, he's always been there he's always been the bigger man in there. If he fights, he fought Khan at 160 pounds, 100, whatever he fought him at. I heard he walked into the ring at 185 that night. So they do it in boxing as well. They do, like, I know, like, personally, athletes that I worked with, they can put on, after they say they've weighed in at 160 pounds, it's absolutely normal for them to put on 16 pounds overnight. Absolutely normal for them to put on 16 pounds. Often the inexperienced, prospects might put on 7 or 8, maybe 9, but a lot of the experienced pros may put on 16, may put on 18, and that's crazy. Like, you're basically going up 2 different weight classes overnight.
Nuts. And as working as a sports doctor, you work with individual and team sports. Yeah. What's your preferred option? Which you'd rather work with, individuals or teams? Because they're totally different. Like, you're working with a group of individuals or one individual at a time.
It's a very, very, very good question, and no one has ever asked me that before, which is strange. So obviously the team element I worked, with Everton ladies, and then the team element I worked with the Vikings, and then obviously the individual. I think with my personality, I think I prefer the individual. And the only thing is when I've worked with boxers, in the past, or when I work with boxers, not professional boxers now, when I get them registered to my GP practice, I want to make sure they're a nice, they're sound, I get on with them, because at the end of the day, it'll just be me and them, like me and maybe their coach and their nutritionist. Like, a lot of times if I have to do something for a boxer, with their permission, I'll run it through the coach and the nutritionist or whoever's involved and stuff. Like, if we have to get blood tests involved, I'll be like, listen, I'm going to get these, which will you want? But I think individually, really, because you get to know the fighter, you get to know their temperament, you get to know when they would call about something. And I always say to a lot of the fighters, just call me anytime, if you have anything, just call me. So it's always, some fighters are obviously more hard work than others, like they'd call you a little bit more. Um, and a lot of times it spreads to, it's not only dealing with the fighter, you might have to do favors for them, for their, their other half, their family and stuff like that. So it's like that really. So I think I prefer the individual aspect, and especially with the boxing. With the team sports, yeah, so it's a little bit difficult. You might get to know that one player week in, week out, but there's, in a dressing room, there's about 16, 17 other lads, plus the coaching staff. There's so many different people there. So, and often, because I work mainly with the academy side, I'll cover some of the home team sides at Winners Vikings, but I work with the academy side. So that changes, obviously, every year because, lads become older and get promoted. So, I'd probably say the individual aspect working, because obviously I'd competed from an individual point of view, so I understand the pressures, I understand everything that comes with the boxing sport and stuff like that. So I'd probably say the individual aspect, man. Like I said, some boxers are more hard work than others. Some, obviously you got to, they come with their own worries and they come with their own things. But I'd probably say that.
Very good. No, this podcast will be released. It'll be a week or so before the Mike Tyson return, fighting Roy Jones
wow.
Jr.
Yeah.
So, what do you reckon? I have to ask you about that fight. I'm a big Mike Tyson fan myself. I met him before, and I watched him growing up as a kid. Like I have right behind me, the laptop here. I have a Mike Tyson signed glove and a poster off him. So it's something that I'm really looking forward to. What about yourself as a boxing fan, a heavyweight boxing fan? What do you reckon?
Before I get into that, so you met Matt Tyson?
Yeah, I met him over in Vegas.
Oh, when was that?
I think 2016.
So what was he? Was it like a site? Was it like an organized event, or did you just?
Yeah, a signing event. So you bought like a glove or shorts, and you met him, and he signed it for you, and you get to chat with him for 10 minutes. So I'll send you a photograph after we finish the podcast to show you a picture. It's pretty cool.
Was he like?
Awesome. Like he walked in, and like Mike Tyson, I'm taller than Mike Tyson, and he walked past all of us, and he's probably the biggest man I've ever seen. Like he's just out, solid neck. Yeah. He was just walked in, sat down, shook his hand, talked to him, and he loves a lot of Irish people. So we started chatting more because I told him he was Irish, and then had a bit of crack about him having tigers and all. But it was a pretty cool guy. But like growing up, it was Mike Tyson was like an idol, watching him, and by now having the opportunity to watch him again, and hopefully maybe in the near future traveling to one of his fights, which would be crazy to say that you're at a Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah, no, easy. I mean, obviously he was magical, Mike Tyson. And I was like, he's back, but yeah, I mean, it was just a shame what happened to his career. Like, with everything after the Buster Douglas and him coming out of jail, and I mean, everyone. I remember this with the Evander Holyfield fight. Everyone, he was a massive favorite. No one gave Evander Holyfield a chance in hell. And then watching what Evander did to him in that first fight, it was. Do you think? I mean, back to the fight. I don't know. Like, you got to think. People just giving Roy Jones not a chance, but mate, Roy Jones has only been fighting for a couple of years ago. Like, I mean, his punch resistance is literally shot to bits. So I guess if Roy Jones gets tagged by something significant, you're not going to see the best form of punch resistance. But you've got to think Tyson's last fight was against Kevin McBride in 2005?
Yeah, 5, you're correct.
Right. Roy Jones's last fight was only 2000, a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, was it? Russia, yeah. So you've got to think boxing isn't about, it's not about one punch. It's not about staying there and landing the one punch. It's about your endurance, your cardio, like your ability to go the rounds. So I guess you'll see Roy Jones. You could see Roy Jones being more active in the fight, throwing more punches. But what if he gets tagged by any of those big hooks from Tyson? But I don't know. You don't know how fit Tyson's going to be. You don't know what he's going to be, what his gas tank's going to be like in the third round, or even the second half of the second round. I don't know. This guy hasn't done anything since the McBride fight. So I don't know. Like, that's the thing. It's difficult for me because I like Mike Tyson, but like Lennox Lewis was my guy. Like growing up, Lennox Lewis was my idol, and I don't know. Like, I don't know. Can you even win? Is it an exhibition fight? But can you even win the fight? Does that
Yeah,
make
you win.
sense?
Also, there's an actual belt on the line as well. Now, I think the WBC has a belt, special belt for the winner
Wow.
also.
I I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't. It could be a Roy Jones points win. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know. It depends what my. I don't know. I really don't. I probably just going to say based on activity, and when Tyson last fought, I'd probably say a Jones points win, man. As crazy as that sounds. Um, Again, it depends on the level of sparring Roy Jones has been getting. But yeah, it's a difficult one, man. I'd probably say Roy Jones points, to be honest.
Either way,
What do you reckon?
well, I'm hoping that, as I was saying, hopefully Mike Tyson wins because it'll be another fight. And the time will be another fight, could be next summer, which means that hopefully traveling will be back on again. So they'll have the opportunity to go to it. That's what I'm hoping.
See,
But sure, you never know. Because I heard
see Mike.
Holyfield's back fighting again, aren't back fighting, he's back training again. So it could be a Vander fight
Yeah,
afterwards.
that's really worrying as well. 'Cause,
Yeah.
mate, Holyfield retired. Like, he should have retired he should have been gone in the late 90s. Like, what the hell is he still doing here? Like,
That's crazy.
oh god,
Crazy.
it's crazy, man. These like, that's the thing I don't get. Like, you get these ex-fighters that will retire and sail off into the sunset, and you'll never hear about them fighting again. You know, Carl Froch,
Yep.
Lennox Lewis, Andre Ward,
Joe Casale.
huh?
Joe Casale from Wales.
Yeah, Joe Calzaghe, Calzaghe. You'll never hear about them fighting. They will never mention it. And then you get these other fighters: Tyson, Holyfield, Roy Jones, Riddick Bowe. All these people, like, you makes you think, dude. Like, is it that much of a drug to you that competing, or is it financial thing? Because I know Evander Holyfield, he had like 8 kids.
Yeah.
He had a big mansion and stuff. So I don't know whether it's the finances, where it's the money, or whether they're that addicted to it. Like, because a lot of them, because you'll know yourself as being a coach, there's a difference between being a fighter and being a coach. Just because you're a good fighter doesn't make you a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't, like, my brother's also an amateur boxer as well. He fights at middleweight. But he's good with his coaching. He enjoys the coaching side. He coaches at university, but I just can't do it. Like, I don't see the game from that aspect. I'm just not very, like, astute to it. But you find a lot of these top fighters, like Roy Jones and all these Evander Holyfield, they may try their hand in coaching, but because their ego is so big, do you understand what I'm saying? Because they've been used to being the king of the world for all that time, because their ego is so big. And I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, they struggle to almost see things from the fighter's point of view. And you'll know yourself, dude, like, being a coach, when you have students, when you have young fighters, you have to almost put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
You have to almost understand their personality. And if you've got 5 different fighters, you've got 5 different personalities. So it's about understanding their thing from, their point of view, really relating to them and understanding their psychology. But I can imagine, as an ex-prize fighter who was used to being the king of the world for so long, it's very, very hard to do, because you just know yourself. You believe in yourself. Does that make sense?
See, it's true. It's probably hard too. You imagine if Evander Holyfield was your coach, and everyone's never be as good as your coach. So
it's that.
And then he's probably looking at the fighter and go, like, I can do this. Why can't you do this?
Exactly. And they've been used to their own way. They're very, like, because you got to fight these fighters. Like, I know, for example, I followed Evander Holyfield's career as well. They're very stubborn, proud men. So they've been used to people writing them off all their life, telling them they can't do anything. So they just believe in themselves so much. But when you can't have that as being a coach, you have to give everything to your fighter. So if you're still thinking about yourself, if you're still making about yourself, it's difficult. And we've seen some of the top fighters over the years try to become coaches. I remember Lennox Lewis tried to coach David Price, for the rematch to Tony Thompson. I actually interviewed David Price for my podcast, and he just said it was just difficult. It was just, the whole setup with Lennox was just difficult. wasn't able to gel. Like, it was just difficult. And then a lot of top. I know Roy Jones is training some fighters at the moment, training Chris Eubank Jr. You find that they don't succeed as much as someone who wasn't a well-known name back in the day. I don't know why it is, and sometimes you see it in the commentating as well. Like, they chat absolute rubbish. But yeah, no, I've gone off a tangent here. But yeah, so the top fighters. I don't know. I'll probably say Roy Jones on points. I think I'd probably say Roy Jones on points, but it would be good. It's just good to see them back again. Like,
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And especially this year. So again, sorry.
I was gonna say you've met Conor, haven't you? Like,
Yeah, I met him a good few times. Yeah.
What's he like?
Believe it or not, he's a very, very humble, quiet guy. Whenever I met him a couple of times, like I was actually in his presence for a few hours one time at a party, like a private party, and like sitting beside him the whole time. And he was different. Did you presume he was? Like, he was very humble, very quiet, asking who I was, how I was getting on. And then I was chatting with Taekwondo, and he's obsessed with Taekwondo, and he's asked me how to do different things. So like, it's a character. It's if you want to fight in the UFC, you'll make thousands. If you want to change your personality, you'll make millions. So it's change. It's like the acting of the sport. That's why, like, Tyson Fury now as well. Like, he's even though Tyson Fury's a great boxer, he keeps talking and he's singing after fights and all. People want to watch that then. Where if Tyson Fury went in and won a fight, point fight or knockout, and never talked afterwards or beforehand, you wouldn't watch him. You wouldn't even know his name.
Yeah. No, he's. You're right. Yeah, I guess, like, because I've heard Conor. I've heard different things about Conor. That's the thing. Like, from his antics and parties, and some of the stuff the recreational stuff. But I've also heard that a lot of the people in Ireland love him. Like, they all, that he does a lot for he likes, like, I like Conor, man. I really, really, like, for someone that's not into MMA, and when I do watch MMA, I appreciate the striking element and stuff. But people like him and Darren Till, they make MMA, they make the UFC, enjoyable to watch, based on their striking abilities. I've never really been a fan of the wrestling aspect and stuff like that, but yeah.
Because I actually was at the McGregor and Mayweather fight. So
really?
So it was an experience.
What was that like?
It was crazy. Like, I had no ticket until an hour before the fight. Got my ticket, ran into the stadium, and then Conor's walking out. So literally, you don't want to know how much I paid for it though for 10 rounds. Ran in, watched the fight, and left. It was crazy.
So what did you? So where did you get a ticket from in the last minute?
There's a boy outside who worked for Fox News or Fox Sports, and he was walking around, ticket for sale. And I didn't believe him. I goes, I'll buy it off. He come me to the door. He came to the door, scanned the ticket, walked in. I was about 10 or 12 rows from the front. So it was wow. It was crazy.
$5,000 you had to pay for that?
No, well, it was a £15,000 ticket, but I got it for 2,000. So it was well worth it. It's well worth it. It was either that or gambling on 22 black.
That's not bad. $2,000 for a near enough front row ticket for a Mayweather fight. That's really good. Like,
it's a fight you'll always remember.
Sorry?
It's a fight that's going to be remembered forever. Like, if you all the news in 20 years' time, they'll say the greatest boxer of all time, Mayweather fought a UFC guy, and also especially he's an Irish guy. So
yeah, what was it? What was the whole experience like, dude?
Oh, crazy! I've been to Vegas now 6 times for 6 different fights.
I've been to Vegas 5 times now. I've never seen a fight there, but funny enough, I remember this fight was in LA. I was actually contemplating to go to watch the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight, the first one in LA, because the second one in Vegas. Because I know some people in Fury's camp, like people who work for him, the strength and conditioning coach and his massage therapist. Yeah. I remember asking them, and the tickets were too expensive for the second fight, and there weren't a lot of tickets available. But for the first fight, it was really cheap and affordable, and I was actually contemplating. I wish I would have gone now, because that was an exciting fight. But that's one of my goals, to watch a fight in Vegas. I think if you go around sort of Cinco de Mayo, there's always fights in Vegas at that time. There's always a fight. But that's crazy, man. That experience for you must have been the
Oh,
whole build up and everything.
it was nuts. Like a good friend of mine lives in Vegas. He's living there a couple of years, and I only met him in Vegas, and
Really?
keep in touch with him now. And every time I go over, we go to the fights together, and it's once a lifetime opportunity every time I go.
Because I remember that undercard was quite good. Because I remember watching the Mayweather thingy fight. I stayed up to watch it at my cousin's house, and the undercard wasn't bad. You had Badu Jack and Cleverly on
Yeah.
the undercard, remember? And Steve Cunningham and his other cruiserweight. I can't remember his name. But yeah, no, I remember it was quite a decent, semi-decent card. You know, Badu
No,
Jack had beaten Cal.
it's a great experience. Like especially like Las Vegas. I love going to Las Vegas because of fighting. It's the capital of the
Yeah,
world of fighting, so it's great.
yeah.
And on with fighting, we also ask our guests about the best one hit they've ever seen, either in person, live, on TV, or watched back on YouTube in the future. It doesn't have to be fighting. It can be even, like, say, for example, like baseball, the best one hit of the bat. It could be boxing, the best knockout, the best free kick scored in football. What was the best one hit that comes to your head that you've seen?
I have to say this is probably when Lennox Lewis knocked out Hasim Rahman for the second time. For the rematch, where he caught him he brought a check left hook and then he brought the right hand in over and just knocked him clean. Other ones, oh God, I can't. That was the only one that came to my head. I mean, there's been so much like.
Yeah.
That's the most
important one. Whatever comes to our head always first is always the most
important. That's probably that'll always be. I mean, there's other ones where just beautiful left hooks and stuff and uppercuts, but I'd probably say that, to be honest. That's the first thing that came to my head right now.
Brilliant. Well, not leave much longer. Just sort of last one I want to talk about. Because of this year is a COVID-19 year and sport was stopped. We're seeing a lot of sport coming back now with boxing, MMA, and football. But also with this here, we're seeing no fans, and then we're seeing results that mightn't happen 6-7 months ago with the fans being there, especially in the martial arts area. There's a lot of people winning that wouldn't be favourites to win. Even the football, look at the Premier League, the table is changing than it was before this time last year before. Do you find this, like, fans being there has a huge advantage now, even more of an advantage than we even realised?
Of course, a huge. I mean, more so again in football as well. These smaller sides, like, you know, they pride themselves, like, you know, going to play Stoke or West Ham away, you'd be intimidated by the crowd, but it's all neutralised now. Like, there's no crowd there to sort of G up the players, and especially in boxing as well. It'll benefit the fighters that get stage fright and don't like boxing in front of a crowd, but it's just difficult for a lot of fighters. You know, like, you'll know yourself when you're competing and you're tired, you know, in that second round. It's different, you know, when you're tired in sparring, you can essentially go that much longer in a fight because the adrenaline's pumping and stuff like that, because the crowd and everyone there's watching. But you've taken that all away. You've just put the same environment as it was in sparring. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you now have to make sure, you know, that's the thing. So it changes everything. A lot of fighters may pace themselves, may sort of box fighters may sort of fight at a slower pace, just because they know that so it affects everything, especially fighters that, you know, that have been hurt as well, and will use the crowd to sort of bring up their spirits. It's where this could be the norm for months and months to come. Like, this could be the norm till maybe next summer, maybe, I don't know. It's just, as in this coming summer, it's a difficult one. I don't really enjoy it, to be honest. I miss the crowds. I miss people.
At the start of it was fun, like watching like the MMA and seeing no crowd and hearing the knockouts and hearing the thumps. But now it's the whole thing is played out. We want to see fans back. We want to hear that roar. They're always talking about you're seeing the away fans, like, say, like a Millwall match, just people are shouting and the teams are intimidated in the FA Cup, where now it's going to be just neutral.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it is. And it does make a massive difference as well. You know, I mean, I guess the benefits are, when you're watching boxing and MMA, you can hear the punches and the thuds of the kicks and, the impacts of the shots and stuff. But no, I think we do miss, you do miss sort of the crowds and stuff.
Yeah. And before we go, we mentioned that you have your own podcast. Let our listeners know where they can get in contact with you on Instagram and Facebook and so on. Listen to your own podcast, which is quite interesting. So I have a few listening to myself more, but I'll catch up. You've over 50 episodes now already, I believe.
Yeah. So this week, so 59 episodes. So Dr. Uz podcast. So Doctor as in full word doctor, and then UZ podcast, the Dr. Uz podcast. So it's on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube, and all other streaming platforms. We bring out 1-2 episodes a week. Just brought out an episode 2 days ago with boxing referee Tony Weeks.
Yeah.
I've got an episode coming out this weekend with former British world champion Herbie Hyde as well, which should be an interesting episode. He'll talk, talks about his news of the world when he went to jail for the news of the world sting. But we've had other people on, had Joseph Parker, Hasim Rahman, in terms of MMA fighters, Dean Garnett, Paddy the Paddy Pimblett. Yeah. There's been a lot of names on there. So if you want to find that out, you can the Dr. Uz podcast. I'm also on Instagram as well. So the handle is at Dr. Uz podcast. So if you've got any medical questions or if you want to find out more, just visit us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well with the same handle. So I really appreciate you having me on, dude. Honestly, it's been good chatting, and hopefully we can do something in the future. Yeah,
I'll put the different links on below of the podcast here, and let people know where to get in contact with you. But no, very good. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. You take care of yourself.
Thank you.
I am the greatest.
Be water, my friend.